cool. You can hear me and everything?
Yeah, you good. You good.
Okay.
Welcome to Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And, of course, there was a great round of NFL divisional playoffs this weekend. I mean, you definitely had to hold on to your seat watching that. But anyway, coming on to talk with me about, of course, the NFL divisional round and NFL football in general, I have Mr. Will Strickland. Man, it's an honor and a privilege having you on, man.
Appreciate you having me on, General. And I want to say first and foremost, it is my honor and privilege because you are a supporter for sure. Steel sharp and steel at all times. You know, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and always trying to support young black men and black people in general. Like Issa Rae says, look, I'm rooting for everybody black. Nothing against anybody else. So that's how I get down. So I want to see you win. You know, we want to see our people win, and salute to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
To the general.
Well, one thing I can say, man, is definitely it was some winning going on, and some teams that thought they were going to win, in meaning the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs ended up winning the game, but boy, oh boy, that was an exciting finish. You know, just when you thought 1-1, the other one came back and scored, and man, amazing.
When you realize that both of those teams' defenses, and Leslie Frazier from the Bills, who should get looks as a head coach this offseason, Rooney Rule or not, they gave up 25 points in less than 2 minutes, both teams combined. Patrick Mahomes went 75 yards in 13 seconds. How? Right? The number one defense in the league. The number one defense in the league was Leslie Frazier's Buffalo Bills. They couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes. They couldn't stop Tyreek Hill. They could not stop. My man, he's the soul brother. Excuse me, brother. You know what I'm talking about. The tight end. Number 87. You know, I don't know if he's still with his girlfriend or not, but I'm not going to get salacious like that. But the bottom line is this. This entire weekend, especially when you talk about the Bills and the Chiefs or the Kansas City football team, I try not to call them that. So the Kansas City Football Club. Easily the most exciting game of the weekend. Like, I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was happening. And the fact that maybe, just maybe, the Rules Committee should reconsider the overtime rules for the NFL.
I kind of took the opposing view of that one. I was like, man, they the number one defense. All you got to do is stop them one time. And it shouldn't even been there anyway, in my opinion. If the coach squib kicks the ball, that takes time off the clock anyway. But, you know, I'm a spectator.
Can we do that in hindsight all the time, Mike? You should have done this. The bottom line is, I think that the offenses are so good and the game was so great. Who wouldn't have paid or stayed 3-4 overtimes of that and like watch people get exhausted? Like, it reminded me, and I'm old, so this happens, of the 82 AFC Championship game, if I'm not mistaken, that was played in, I don't know what they call it, Paul Brown Stadium back then. It was like 30 below, right? And I think San Diego, back when the Chargers were in San Diego, were playing the Cincinnati Bengals. And just the excitement of that game and the toughness, they gritted it out. Or, you know what? I'm actually picking the wrong game. I should have been talking about San Diego and Miami, the game that went to overtime, the historic Kellen Winslow, being carted off the field because he did everything. And when you think about how great Josh Allen was and that he came up just a bit short, you think about how great Patrick Mahomes is. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing these two teams in the AFC championships for the next couple of years. A friend of mine whose son is Jordan Poyer, one of my high school teammates. That's his son, right?
Oh, wow.
So when you think about how they said, that team in New England is dead now, they're right. They have to go out and prove it now. And I think the same heartache that the Kansas City football team faced when they lost in the Super Bowl to the GOAT, the good Dr. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. that sting comes back to them, and they want to redeem this year. And I think they're going to do that, at least from the AFC standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. A lot of people are comparing their rivalry or supposed rivalry. It's not really a rivalry until one wins in the playoffs against the other one. But, I digress. But it's comparing it to Manning and Brady. So we'll see what happens as that goes on. But speaking of Mr. Brady.
It has to start somewhere, though. Doesn't it have to start somewhere, though, Mike? Like those young Manning and Brady were young. These guys are 25 years old. Tom Brady is playing. He's 44 years old. We don't know, things can happen. But for the next 10, 12 years, we could be seeing these guys facing each other a couple of times. So why not call it a rivalry right now to amp up, the game and make sure that people are watching? I like it.
I hear you. Hey, I understand it. I'm just saying.
No doubt.
Well, what I will say is definitely, you were talking about Tom Brady, and of course, it looked like he was about to get blown out this weekend versus the Rams. Then all of a sudden, the Rams started ramming, and they started fumbling the ball and doing all kind of things. Jalen Ramsey getting beat for a deep pass, which never really happens. And all of a sudden, it's a tie ball game. But then Matthew Stafford actually makes a game-winning play in the playoffs.
I was waiting for him to turn into the Detroit Lions Matthew Stafford. I was waiting for that to happen. Because one thing you could never do, ask Matt Ryan, the other Matt, that when you're facing that guy, down 28-3, down 27-3 in the divisionals, there's a guy on that other sideline that could care less about the score. He makes you believe that he can come back from anything. And it's crazy, no matter – you still have to capitalize on those fumbles. You still have to capitalize on the turnovers and the mistakes. His ability to capitalize on that and keep calm and have the confidence of his players to do what they're supposed to do in those moments. You ask yourself, what happened in the first three quarters of those guys? All of a sudden, he just turns the switch on. That's a scary thing, whether you're 25 or 44. And there's a confidence in a guy who's won more Super Bowls than anybody will ever win in the history of everything, that he'll come back and give you a chance to win.
That's true. But I definitely got to give props to the Rams for even holding their composure and making that play happen to win the game. So got to give them props.
Well, you definitely have to give Matthew. I was hoping he didn't, and that the old Detroit Matthew Stafford would show up, but he's turned a corner, and I'm happy for them. I'm happy for OBJ for sure, who was cast off and was a key piece to what they did, especially after Robert Woods went down. But I have to ask this question, Mike, as a guy who plays football, and you talked about the end of the Chiefs or the Kansas City football team versus the Buffalo Bills, what happened defensively. How do you not bracket cover the Triple Crown winner and arguably the MVP of this league at the end of the game? Prevent defense is the worst defense in the history of defenses.
I agree.
Because it makes you soft like porridge. Shouts out to my man, Sean Big Screen. Soft. You don't have to play, as the great and immortal Negro poet Herman Edwards said, you play to win the game. They were playing not to lose instead of playing to win the game. But you were behind. You have to play aggressive. You have to play smart, too. And I couldn't see how they were getting behind the defense with Cooper Kupp. Now, if Tyler Higbee gets behind him, okay, I might have an excuse. He's covered by a linebacker or, a nickel DB that wasn't ready and didn't have the game plan, like Ross Cockrell. I can't stand him. I couldn't stand him in Pittsburgh. But I'm trying to tell you, I can get that more than I see the most dangerous guy on the field getting wide open like that. Hurt my heart.
It was amazing to see. I didn't expect it. But, one thing that was definitely amazing to see, and not in a good way, this is an AFC South show, is the Tennessee Titans going down to the Cincinnati Bengals at home, 19-16. You got basically the whole crowd going for Joe Burrow and saying, okay, the whole crowd, we got Bengals fans, I should say. going for Joe Burrow.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Who they? Because that's all you heard at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee.
Right.
Joe Burrow got that swag, Jack. He got that heat. He definitely got layers and layers of swagger on him. I can't front. And his teammates believe in him so much, they couldn't stop Jamar Chase, easily one of the best receivers in the league as a rookie. I didn't stutter. And for him to make Joe Mixon, for him to make, I can't remember the tight end's last name. It starts with an O, and it's escaping me right now.
I don't know. I can't even remember his last name.
Usman's the old wide receiver, but it's Omaza or something like that. I know what you're talking about. But and I feel bad that I wasn't able to tell you that just now. But the fact that he utilizes his weapons in that defense, the very underrated defense, because the Titans were like, we get Derrick Henry back. Our running game is going to smash him in the ground. We have a guy who held down the fort. Everybody said he was just a game manager. And Ryan Tannehill, he was playing great without Derrick Henry. I can't front. They had a nice running game behind some guys that came in and just did their jobs. That offensive line, they did their jobs. When it came down to it, Miami Ryan Tannehill showed up.
He sure did. He sure did. And I was actually at the game, and the last interception, I'm watching him, and I'm in the end zone. So I'm right behind where he's throwing the football. So he drops back, and he's throwing it. And I look to where he's going to throw the football. I'm like, he's not going to throw that. That guy's not open. Oh, he's throwing it. And I knew as soon as he threw it, I was like, oh, the DB's there. He's going to tip the ball. Yep, what happened? Interception. I was like, oh, it's game over.
Kudos with tips, but one of them was terrible. The one that he threw on the screen pass, terrible. Right?
I'm trying to figure out why they throw it. Why they even set that play up.
Well, again, you have to look at the fact that Cincinnati did a great job throwing the run, which is a great, what is that, 70%? Maybe I'm overselling it a bit. But a great majority of the Tennessee Titans offense is built on the ability of Ryan Tannehill to have run play options because of the bludgeoning running game that they have. That gives him opportunities to get out in the field, to scramble, to hit A.J. Brown, to hit Julio Jones whenever he gets open now, whatever the case might be. But when it counts the most, you have to make the right reads. You have to protect the ball. You have to value that pigskin. And when he did not do that in the divisional game, because they're like, okay, well, we're the number one seed. You can't go into that with that attitude. You haven't won anything yet. And I think that part of that plagued them as well.
Now, I will say this. I've heard you say this a few times. After that game, it was some, what is it? So what do you say? It was some sad singing and some flower bringing?
Slow singing and flower bringing.
Singing and flower bringing.
Our alarm starts ringing. Shouts out to the notorious one.
Yeah, that was oh my goodness. Hey, I'm walking out of that stadium, and you can see fans, and man, Bengals fans are going crazy. Man, Titans fans cussing at him, man. I almost saw a fight. I thought I saw a fight, man.
My nephew is a diehard Nashville, Tennessee, anything. He's a Predators fan. Like this dude loves the Zamboni. He loves being at Bridgestone. He loves being at the stadium. He loves being there in the mix. Really big fan and really intelligent about the sport. And I called him after and just wanted to see if he was okay. And he's like, I'm not vested in that way anymore. It was a good game all around. I just thought that Mike Vrabel and his coordinators could have done a whole bunch better. And Vrabel has done a pretty good job holding that team together without Derrick Henry and having, different guys in and out of the lineup a lot this year. So you have to give him credit for that. But, nobody counts moral victories. At the end of the day, it's the rings and things they think about, bring them out. It's hard to yell when them L's be in your mouth.
You're right, man. You're right. And to me, you got Vrabel, the decision on the going for the 2-point conversion, that cost them 1 point. Then you had the going for it on third down, you do an RPO, which I don't know what the offensive coordinator was thinking there. Of course, Tannehill keeps it, they tackle him. Then on fourth down, they're giving it to Derrick Henry. They line up and they stuff it. So I'm like, that's sitting there in my mind, like, what is this offensive coordinator thinking today? Did he just think, I'm just going to figure out the hardest way to win this game?
Listen, I know this is, touring the AFC South, but I feel like we're not giving enough credit to that Bengals defense. Like they fly around to the ball, they do their jobs. They believe from the coach down to Joe Burrow to everyone else in that squad. They believe that they belong here, and they're going to show that. And I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. I don't know if they call it. I don't know what the corporate sponsor is for Arrowhead Stadium anymore. GHA something, Arrowhead Stadium.
ABCDEFG Stadium.
Basically. But I am curious to see how much they'll have Mr. Mahomes on the run in that game and how much they're going to get from, their running game. And can they stop Travis Kelce? Can they stop Tyreek Hill? Can they stop McCole Hardman and all those guys, Pringle and all those guys underneath? Because they're going to run crossing routes all day and get Patrick Mahomes out in the flat. And that's going to be difficult for that defense to contain a whole day.
That's right. And of course, in the AFC South inbox, we do have TJ Davis says, "What's crazy is that Tennessee sacked Burrow 8 times. It was a party in the backfield. It was actually 9 times, but yeah, still a party in the backfield."
Joe Burrow's from Ohio somewhere, so he's at business in the front, party in the backfield, and there was a party, a sack party in the backfield, no doubt, TJ. But at the end of the day, this guy got off the ground time and time again and did his job, kept them in the game, kept it competitive. And again, the defense did their job. You have to have all 3 phases in the postseason. You have to have all 3 phases working as best you can. And you saw that all these games ended on like last second kick. It was 4 seconds on the clock, field goals, winning these games.
Right.
Right. And to put yourself in position to win those games, you have to give a lot of credit to all 3 phases of the Cincinnati Bengals team. Who they?
Right. Hey, you got to give them respect. Hey, I would talk about the San Francisco and the Green Bay game, but that was pretty boring until that block kick happened. But,
Wait, if I'm not mistaken, your cousin used to play for the San Francisco 49ers. My brother, his favorite team growing up was the Niners, okay? I want the Niners to win the game so bad, not just because of Aaron Rodgers and his whole vaccination stance and all the other stuff, but that I don't want to see Green Bay win anything at all. The Niners are tough. I didn't know if they had enough on offense. And when you saw that first drive, I said it's going to be a long day for the Niners defense. But Fred Warner and all those guys started showing up. And the toughest player in these playoffs, I kid you not, from the University of South Carolina, Deebo Samuel, the multi-purpose, one of the best players in the game. I don't care what, does not matter what position. Deebo Samuel is the biggest reason they won, because it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. He ain't no Tom Brady.
Yeah, he be out there Tom Brady, man.
Oh, is he? Sometimes I think they win the games in spite of him. And I'm loath to give Nick Bosa any credit for anything. But I have to show respect to Kyle Shanahan for keeping those guys in the game after that easy first score, keeping them focused, playing the field position game, making sure that as long as they kept Aaron Rodgers and that team out of the end zone and missing field goals and stuff like that, they had a chance, and they gave themselves a great opportunity and finally broke through.
Yeah, definitely. So you got Rams and 49ers on one side, and you've got Chiefs and Bengals on the other side. So if you had to pick today, who would you pick?
Today. Why making the supposition, sir? You're going to make me pick anyway.
So if you had to pick today, who do you got in the Super Bowl this year?
Game by game, I'm going to go Rams 23-19 over the Niners, and in the Kansas City Football Club versus the Cincinnati Bengals, an upset.
Okay.
You know what? Let's go upset all around. Hold on. And the 1988 Super Bowl that was played between the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Francisco 49ers. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals to win their first ever championship behind Swag-oo Joe Burrow.
Wow, we're going to see what happens, man. But, hey, I want to say this. I listen to your podcast, The Open Run, every single week, and you give the best opening monologues. And by far, for everyone's listening and watching, if you haven't downloaded The Open Run, go check it out. And the opening song, great. I rewind it back and listen like every time. And then
shout
also
out to my man Rich Kid. He is the sound provider for everything I've ever done. Whether it be, my TSN show one-on-one with Will and Dwayne for the news, views, and truths that you choose on the NBA and beyond. The All Balls Don't Bounce, our old podcast where we tell the story behind the story in sports, or now with the Open Run. Like, I just like to stay loyal to that guy because he's always done quality work, and he always looks out. Steel sharpens steel, and again, that's not just something I say for the sake of saying it. I really believe in that. So when I say I want to support people and see them do well, I do. And Rich Kid is one of the, he is the backbone of what we do musically and sonically on that show.
Now, I will say this, too. If you haven't listened to the last episode, well, you just released another one. But if you haven't listened to the episode, Martin Luther King, the monologue on Martin Luther King,
right,
you will love that. I listened to it like 3 times.
Cost of Greatness. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I get a lot of notes about the opening exposition about how you weave topical things that are going on in the world and other things in with the basketball stuff and like just your random thoughts. And I'm like, throughout the week, I keep a notepad and I just write down ideas and like how you put those together. It's like making a composed dish. And the way I think about the show, when I first started doing it, I didn't know what I want to do. But I definitely want to have a place where I can say, I want to say these things and I want to talk about stuff that's in the world. That's why it's the Open Run. And make sure that I stay topical to what it is with basketball, but also saying like I'm a part of the world too, where basketball and life are one, they come together there. And then we have the guest that comes on, and then at the end I give out the news, views, and truths. I put a little stuff in there. I'm gonna find a story here and there. Told a story about Pat Riley quitting on the New York Knickerbockers this past week, and how that was relevant to the idea of this episode, the episode that just came out today, as a matter of fact, episode 60 of the Open Run, called Mispronoun. Not mispronounce, mispronoun, because we live in the world of him, her, he, she, me, we, you, and us. So let's figure it out. And appreciate you shouting me out, man. Appreciate you supporting as always, man, and respect due to you and everything you're doing with touring the AFC South, man.
Thank you. And tell everybody where they can catch you.
Well, you can find me across these rough interweb streets at W_Strickland and the #1 on Twitter, Will Strickland, and the #1 on IG. And as I said before, and across all streaming platforms where podcasts can be found.
Well, I definitely thank you again for coming on and talking with me today. Everyone, when you were in for a treat today, this was a treat today to have you on, man.
Oh, it was my honor to be a part, man. You know how it is. We got you.
Yes, sir. And you've been listening and watching the Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton, with Will Strickland. We're out.